このブリックスで何をする気だ、キンブリー。
Whoa!
すぐに出られます。後で手続きをしておきますよ。
ありがとう、キンブリーさん。こいつらのことよろしくお願いしますね。
Hey, she seems to like him.
おい、あんまりキンブリーを信用すんなよ。
なんで？いい人だよ。
あなたのご両親はイシュバールで命を落とされたお医者様ですね。遺体を収容したのは私の部隊です。あと一歩間に合わず、私たちが現場に着いた時にはすでに意の倫理に従い最後まで意志を貫き通す。心から敬服します。ご存命のうちにお会いしたかった。可愛らしい娘さんと一緒に写った写真を大切そうに持っておられました。あなたの存在が心の支えだったのでしょ
う。Okay, Kimblee.
お会いできて光栄です。ウィンリー・ロックベルさん。
Okay, that's why she respects him and likes him.
あいつがイシュバールで何をやったか。注意の話でしかイシュバールのこと知らないんだ。
True.
注意の話。
大好きなんですよ、ウィンリーちゃんのこと。
落ち着け。何か違うこと考えるんだ俺。水素、ヘリウム、リチウム、ベリリウム。
なんでこんな変なのに触れたんだろう。
なんか言ったか。
なんでもないわよ。
That's the reason he's interesting. Love this shot. They've shown that a few times, the switching of the ship.
軽っ。こんなんで強度大丈夫なのか。
今頃寒冷地用に乾燥か。
How about his background? He's got a really distinct look as well.
やはりこれが一番しっくりくる。
Oh, she's gonna love this. She's ready.
おい、誰だこの可愛い娘は。
That she
俺の
is.
整備士。なんなら俺の仕事場見る？見ます。おい。
何よ。
おいよ。あんまり浮かれてその辺うろちょろすんじゃねえぞ。砦の中いろいろ危ねえか。
わかった。
She'll appreciate that concern, of course.
仕事の話をしましょう。鋼の錬金術師。
A reminder.
24時間経っても戻らなかった時は穴を塞いでください。
わかった。そうしよう。
She'll do it. The first homunculus, eh?
今のうちにみんなに言っておく。レイブン中将の件は私が個人的にやったことだ。諸君らは何も見なかったし聞かなかったことが露見した場合は私に全ての責任をふっかけろ。
I don't know. Maybe they might cover for her though, out of respect. Okay. So we're looking at Pride essentially being the first homunculus, right? Ooh.
タッグの相手に選んでいただけるとは光栄だ。
いいよ。オリビエ様が欲しいのは東方軍の力だから、マスタングはむしろ消えろってさ。
はあ、そう。ご婦人、あなたは
アームストロング家に代々仕えし、
Oh.
花屋のおばちゃんさ。
Hey! Look at that. Even she has it.
ヒューズよ。
Oh.
理解して支えてくれる人間ってのは結局のところ共に戦ったことのある戦友から出てくるものなんだな。
よく生きててくれた。お前たちだけが。他は
Yeah, they've seen some shit, man.
早くここを出ないと。あれが来る。
It's been here the whole time.
影はダメだ。影が来る。落ち着け。おい、しっかりしろ。
Whoa. Oh. Wow, this is really similar to.
行くぞ。背負えるだけ背負っていけ。
Interesting.
ではよろしくお願い。セリム、まだ起きてたの？
はい、玄関の音がしたから。 お父さんが帰ってきたのかと。
この方はホークアイ注意よ。
こんばんは、ホークアイさん。
はじめまして。
Right.
さあ、セリム様。
Come on.
お休みにならないと明日寝坊してしまいますよ。
聡明なご子息ですね。そうでしょう。自慢の息子よ。まあブラッドレーの遠縁の子だから出来がいいのはあの人の血筋なのかもしれないわね。
奥様の遠縁では。
いいえ。
Oh my god.
天涯孤独の身。親戚など一人もいない。それにさっきのあの感覚。あの子。
Holy
気づい
shit.
ちゃいました。
Get the Oh my god, yeah, I was just gonna say it. It's Selim.
うちのお母さん、おしゃべりが好きで。
さっき一瞬奇妙な殺気を
Yeah, I
感
mean,
じ
they
ました。
showed us, essentially.
以前にもどこかでグラトニーというホムンクルスに
It was
取られた
Selim?
時の感覚です。セリム・ブラッドレー。あなたは一体何者ですか？
ホークアイ注意。
So he retreated.
銃を抜かないのも良い判断です。
あなたもグラトニーと同じホムンクルス。
The first,
いいえ、グ
apparently.
ラトニーとは比べ物にならないプレッシャーを感じるわね。
奴と同じレベルだと思われるのは心外です。私の名はブライド。始まりのホムンクルス。
Jeez. That is some host.
始まりのホムンクルスと言ったわね。それはどういう意味？
言葉通りです。
人質を殺しては意味がないでしょう。
よくわかってますね。
I'm so baffled right now.
私はいつでもあなたの
Ooh,
影から見ています。
beautiful animation.
ドクター・マルコーがスカート？
これも見つけたらあとは私の仕事。そして3つ目はこのブリッグズに血の門を刻む。
血の門を刻む？
イシュバールと同じです。人々を殺め憎悪と悲しみをこの地
There it
に
is.
刻む。
んなことできるわけ。あんた連中がやろうとしてること分かってて協力してんのか？奴らは
世界の変わる様を見てみたい。
は？
Right.
覚悟と覚悟、意志と意志、命と命、人間とホムンクルス、どちらが勝つのか、世界が何を選ぶのか。
Wow.
進化した人間を名乗るホムンクルスに人間が滅ぼされるとしたら、それこそ歴史的瞬間。私はそれを見届けたいだけです。
なんで
It's reminiscent of a lot
あ
of
んたがホムンクル
characters.
ス側についてるんだ。
私の錬金術を遠慮なく使わせてくれるからですよ。自分が異端であることは知っています。しかし私のようなものが生き残れば、それは世界が私を選んだということ。生き残りを、まさに存在をかけた戦い。こんなやりがいのある人生はありませんよ。
Oh yeah. He certainly established that.
錬金術師とは皆自己中心的なものと思っていたのですがね。で
There it
は
is.
あなたの自己中心的
Oh
なもの
god.
に語りかけ
He's
る
about
と
to
しま
entice
しょう。
him.
喉から手が出るほど欲しいはずです。
Get ready, Ed.
仕事を引き受けるなら差し上げましょう。
Oh.
だから大量殺人に手を貸すことになるかもしれない。
そんなの断れば。それで私が。やだ、私あんたたちの足かせになってる。
That's gonna hit her
泣か
hard.
ないよ。ごめん。脳天気だった自分に腹が立つ。あんたたちは元の体に戻りたいだけなのに。
それなんだが、作戦に協力すれば賢者の石がもらえる。
石ってでも
キンブリーが持ってる。
そうじゃなくて、石の
Yeah.
材料は。
分かってる。
勝手にしなよ、もう。
ああ、
Nice. I love that. They have that connection. I understood.
まずスカーの捜索からやらせてくれ。
ほう、なぜです？
Uh,
スカーはウィンリーの両親を殺した。仇を討ちた。
なるほど、わかりました。
それとアルも一緒に連れてく。あいつあのなりだからスカーの人体破壊が効かねえんだ。
ほう、それは便利。
Oh.
大丈夫。兄さんはそんなものを
Yeah,
使うつ
see,
も
he
りはない
understood.
よ。僕らは今真の練炭術に元の体に戻る可能性を探っているんだ。その練炭術使いの女の子がスカーと行動を共にしているらしい。
だったら私ももっともらしい理由考えなきゃね。はい、ちょっとそこ詰めて。
Ah.
ウィンリーさん、砦で待っていてください。遊びではないんですよ。
分かってます。でもオートメイルを変えたでしょ。
She's
もし作動不良とかあったら困るし、メンテナンスについていかないと。何かあったらロックベルの名に傷がついちゃうもの。
Go on, Kimblee.
当たり前でしょ。うちの PG ちゃんのないから
いいでしょう、わかりま
I
した。
love this voice acting for Kimblee so much.
機械言うた結構。
Oh, what? That shot though.
何が起こるかわかんね
でも待ってるだけなんて
Mm.
もう嫌。
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you know, the moment you get a title like that, the first Homunculus, you know you're in for quite the ride. You know you're in for something baffling, something shocking, and yeah, it's all those things, right? The excitement that title creates, it certainly lives up to all of that. It really does. Salim Bradley is the first Homunculus, right? The first that was essentially extracted from father. And it's interesting that pride is the first thing he thinks of. That pride is the first thing that's extracted from father, right? So this whole concept of father removing these sins that are so ingrained within humans, right? It really is quite fitting that he goes for pride first out of all of them. And, you know, father's pride and joy, essentially, I think it's really quite interesting that he's in the form of this young child, this cute, innocent-looking child, right? So, interesting concept, right? Interesting dynamic there. But yeah, you see that it's on showcase. You know, that prideful nature, right? It is essentially a depiction or a manifestation of that sin, right? Pride, the sin of arrogance, of self-importance. It's all on display. You see it. And, you know, I've got to say, that scene, him kind of confronting Hawkeye, oh my goodness, that's a knockout. That's one of the best scenes of the anime. The tension is so palpable. It's so delectable. I mean, it's a riveting scene, isn't it? And even the visual presentation of that scene is really quite impressive. I love some of the Dutch angles that are being utilized here to elevate that tension, right? You know, of course, the use of score is fantastic. The voice acting for Pride. And then, of course, that really jarring depiction, right? You have the voice of Pride coming out of this young child that up until this point has been this really sympathetic, you know, person. It's a child, right? And, you know, up until this point, the audience has been kind of conditioned to feel bad for Salim Bradley, given his devotion to King Bradley, his father. I mean, in that sense, if you go back, you know, Pride's been playing along the whole time, right? You go back and look at some of this dialogue, you look at the context, it's a totally different context. It recontextualizes so many things at this point. It recontextualizes everything as far as Salim Bradley goes. He's playing along, so he was essentially trolling Ed and Al, right? A few episodes ago, you know, acting like a fanboy, and he wants to be like Ed once he grows up, and he wants to help father. See, again, you know, that's a totally different thing now, right? And, you know, the thing is, everything Salim is saying there actually might be the truth, but you know, up until this point, us, the audience, is kind of, you know, thinking that he's actually talking about his father, King Bradley, but no, he's actually, you know, speaking of the father. So, you know, the interesting thing here is that Pride actually might have meant all those things he was saying about, you know, wanting to help father, that, you know, the people of this country are always in his heart or on his mind, right? All that dialogue, it just comes right back. But, you know, in terms of that scene itself, I thought there's some stunning animation there too. You know, there's this zoom in dolly shot almost. That's one of the most beautiful pieces of animation in this anime so far. You know, that was just phenomenal. And, you know, I've got to say, Hawkeye actually handles this in quite a composed manner. Yes, she's really quite freaked out and she is scared, and that's realistic, as she should be. But I thought she was so composed and she handled it quite nicely, I think. She took it like a champ. Now, of course, you know, she has this information, and you see that the appearance of Hawkeye actually saved those people inside the tunnel, Buccaneer and, you know, the rest of the rescue crew, didn't it? Because as it's about to approach them, because of the lanterns throwing up the shadows, you know, that seems to be crucial here, a crucial component of its movement, right? Its effectiveness, essentially. You see that the moment it notices or senses that Hawkeye is at the residence, it retreats, right? So in that sense, you see how devastatingly effective this homunculus can be, Pride. But you see that it really shows us how effective of a long-range combatant Pride can be, right? At a moment's notice, it can go from the north and reappear in central, right? Now, you know, I'm not saying it's physically moving because it seems to be moving, you know, in the shadows. You know, I'm not saying, you know, Salim Bradley, the body of Salim Bradley is moving. That seems to be more of a, I don't know, a shell, perhaps. I mean, it is some host, you know, like I mentioned, it is a crazy host to be in the body of a child. And, you know, I do have questions. I have some questions, but, you know, I'll give it a few episodes. I'm sure I'll get some more information about, you know, the form that Pride is in, you know, the form of this child and being a part of, you know, King Bradley's, you know, family. The first time I do get to hear from Pride is, you know, this disembodied voice, isn't it? At that point, I thought there's even some sort of telepathic communication going on here, maybe, right? As it's kind of checking in on King Bradley, and, you know, kind of concerned by some of the thought process King Bradley is kind of, you know, showcasing, you know, or putting out there. So you could tell even then that Pride is clearly someone that's high up in terms of ranking, right? So yeah, now I get to see it in the flesh, right? Now, you know, it seems to be quite formidable, but there are some drawbacks, or there are some, you know, things that kind of pull it back from that almost OP nature of it. So you see that the two guys that are being rescued, they just freak out the moment some light is introduced into the tunnel, right? Because now they've kind of got a handle on how this creature, this monster, really kind of gets around, and it requires these shadows that, you know, light kind of throws up. And, you know, I loved how there's a few shots of the moon just cutting in, right? As the clouds clear and the moon comes out again, allowing for a lot of these shadows, right? So it can kind of move. And in terms of moving and the look, I mean, you know, it's not even as if it's similar. It is the same. It's the exact same form or look as, you know, those little shadowy hands that come out for Ed and Al in episode 2. And then once again, as they pull Ed through the gate, right? I'll come back for you, you know, of course, iconic moment, but it's the same. The really creepy shadow hands, right? And the eyes, and even the smile, the big creepy smile. Everything reminds me of the truth beyond the gate, right? The truth realm. So there's a connection there, clearly, right? It's really quite unmissable. So there's something really quite fascinating going on here through the first sin that was extracted from Father, right? In terms of connection to the truth, and in terms of the things Father is trying to kind of accomplish, right? In the end game of this story, essentially. And again, you know, through prior failed attempts at this gate of truth or this portal. But of course, you know, it's a really specific situation, isn't it? to be able to move in shadows, as he kind of tells Hawkeye, I'll be watching you from your shadow, right? Not from the shadows, from your shadow as well. So it's really quite a creepy prospect for Hawkeye as well, right? To know that she's always being watched at this point. And in terms of any potential showdowns, and I'm sure, you know, they'll be going up against Pride in the end game of this series as well. I think, you know, they'll have to figure out that, you know, they have to eliminate these shadows somehow, right? The really specific type of lighting that throws up the shadows that it requires, right? So, you know, they're going to have to light it up in a manner that kind of eliminates all shadows, right? Depending on the location of some big fight that's to happen, or any endgame type encounter that they might have with Pride. But, you know, even though I love the scene that follows after the conversation Hawkeye and Mrs. Bradley have, and she kind of, you know, figures out, oh, okay, something's really wrong here. I actually feel that, you know, that little hand, the shadow hand kind of creeping up to Hawkeye and her sensing it, right? Now, is that normal for her to be, you know, sensing this presence, this really ominous and strange presence, you know, this presence of bloodlust, as she put it? That's not normal, is it, for her to be able to do? That's more of a thing that people from Jing seem to have, that ability essentially to, you know, feel the chi, to sense a presence, sometimes quite a rotten presence. If you go back to some of those scenes with Mei Chang, right, being really quite on edge anytime she can sense father and the unnatural being that he is, right? So I felt that it was really quite strange that Hawkeye was able to sense all of this, unless of course it is just emitting such a crazy presence. And, you know, Hawkeye, again, you know, being, you know, on the battlefield a lot, she's been around a lot of death, maybe has something to do with that. See, the thing is, I would have preferred if they didn't show me that shadowy hand going towards Hawkeye and, you know, her getting all, you know, rattled by this presence. Because the moment you see that shadowy hand that you've already seen in the tunnel, you've seen it retreat, and then of course it cuts to Celine Bradley, you know, right then and there, you're pretty much 95 to 99% sure that this is the homunculus, this is Pride. Celine Bradley is the shadowy figure that was inside the tunnel just now, right? Or not Celine Bradley. Yeah, you know, it gets a little tricky, doesn't it? Because it's not really Celine Bradley anymore, is it? It's just always been Pride in this, I don't know, shell of a child. I actually think it would have been a little bit more effective if she feels that presence, right? You know, she has that jarring moment, but they don't show us the shadowy hand, right? Then, you know, it leaves you thinking, right? It's like, oh, hold on, there's something off here. And then, of course, you know, if you go into the next scene, the mother explaining that, no, he's from King Bradley's side, then, you know, you really start getting creeped out because, of course, you know, as Hawkeye kind of reiterates and the audience already knows, King Bradley has no family, right? And then as she's walking down the hall, I think that would have been the perfect moment for the big reveal to happen. I just think building towards that, step by step, escalating it until it reaches that pinnacle in that hall, that infamous hall at this point. So that's just my opinion. You know, it's just a preference that I would have loved in terms of the depiction of that scene. But yeah, you know, it's a fantastic scene nonetheless. It is. But also in terms of sensing it, you know, you see that it excels at breaking down people psychologically as well, right? So maybe there's a bit of that in there. But that one pan shot of, you know, of Celine Bradley standing in the shadows around the corner, right? You see his little cute legs as it's panning up. You know, Damien over here, so creepy, so creepy. Of course, you see the red lights, the red eyes in the background as well, and Hawkeye's over here on this side. It's a great scene. It's a great scene of the anime. And you know, I mentioned that Pride was essentially trolling Ed and Al. So, you know, it knows all about alchemy and their kind of research, or, you know, that they are looking into it. So it knows that, and I'm sure, you know, it's told Father or it's told King Bradley. But yeah, I just really love how the oldest sin, the first sin, right, the oldest homunculus, is the youngest essentially in its presentation. And, you know, the crazy thing is, This is a long time ago now. This is around the time greed is kind of being absorbed back into father, right? It's asking about sloth. It didn't say anything about pride. Does that mean that he just kind of knew? Or he just kind of sensed it, that pride is around? Maybe it's lurking in the shadows, right? Or maybe he just didn't care about pride. But let's move on to the other part of this episode, the North, right? Really continues to be so exciting. It's such a fantastic location. And I hope I still get a few more episodes here. I mean, they're kind of rolling out of there now, right? And there's that great shot, the pan shot of Olivier at the top of the wall, right? Who has now been in contact with Roy Mustang, right? Now, that's also kind of happening in the background. Roy Mustang is kind of laying low. He's not really making any noise at the moment, though he is being implored to take the initiative at this point as well. Through that lady who's been a helper or who's been a part of the Armstrong family for generations or a long time, right? She's even got the signature curl going on. But yeah, that's great to see, right? That alliance coming together. And also in the beginning of the episode, you have Miles, who knows that, of course, Kimblee is up to something, right? He's bringing his own people in, or, people from Central are coming in now. And of course, just a few episodes ago, they kind of had that group effort down below in the tunnel, right? The group hypothesis or hypotheses. So they know the North is this final target essentially on that map they came up with. So, they're bracing themselves. They know something's around the corner, something big. And of course, Kimblee kind of confirms it. The whole concept of drawing a crest of blood in this land, in this place. A reminder to Ed that, this is his position. This is the position he took up of State Alchemist. Kimblee made sure to remind him of his duties and responsibilities as a State Alchemist, as the dog of the military. And now it's getting to the point that, he's not able to kind of stay out of this, right? Again, given his current relationship with King Bradley and his position with King Bradley. And I felt that it was really quite chilling to listen to Ed talk about, potentially having to take part in mass murder, right? As he is in the jail cell, Winry and Al on either side. And of course, these brothers know each other. They just know each other inside and out. Yes, maybe Al was taken by surprise at first, but then he knows. He understands, right? They just have to look at each other. They just know, and they can read each other. And that plan includes finding Scar first, right? So yeah, it's all building towards another bombastic episode, perhaps. Another really exciting episode. But, let me shift the focus to one of the best characters of this anime, of this story, Solf J. Kimblee. This is one of the best of the story. Easily. I mean, at this point, Kimblee is on the path to becoming one of the best anime characters altogether that I've come across, right? So intriguing, so fascinating, everything about him, right? Anytime he's on screen, you're glued to it. You really are. His ideology, his realist stance, his disposition, all of it. It's captivating, isn't it? See, that flashback scene is quite fascinating, isn't it? And intriguing because, and by the flashback scene, I mean the car, heading towards Central, bringing Winry to Central. Because yes, even if he is trying to gain her trust and manipulate her, right? And he's really quite effective at it. I feel like the things he's saying here, I think he means them, right? Everything they've set up about this character so far in this series dictates that he is not lying at that moment. I have no reason to believe he's bullshitting at that moment, right? And by that, I mean, him really praising her late parents, right? They upheld the physician's code, something along those lines. And they, stuck to their convictions right till the end, right up until the end. This is something he can respect. They've already shown us this, right? For that reason, you can see that he can respect people like Scar. Of course, I've seen them kind of go toe to toe and Scar almost leaves him for dead. But, he can respect someone like Scar. He can respect someone like Ed. You see his reaction to Ed's retort, I have the resolve to not kill, right? You see that that was quite interesting for Kimblee. He kind of just sits back, and he found that fascinating, right? The resolve to not kill. I think a part of him can respect that, or he can respect that altogether. That's the type of person he is. Listen, you know, this whole concept of him being an agent of chaos, he wants to watch the world burn. Sure, there might be an element of that in it, but you know, after this scene, after this episode, you see that it's not just about watching it burn. He wants to see the aftermath. He wants to see the new world, the new order. And I feel like Kimblee is just so perfect for like an essay type approach to a character. I mean, it's one of the biggest fan favorites of all time, right? So I'm sure, you know, it's been dissected and, you know, focused on quite a bit at this point. But I think, yeah, Kimblee offers so much in terms of analysis, doesn't he? This character. And, you know, I think Arakawa has probably done a lot of research, or I could tell that she's read up on a lot of philosophy as well, I think. You know, Hegel specifically comes to mind in relation to Kimblee. In, you know, his ideology and his thoughts on things. I mean, I'm just so excited about this character, man. And also, you'll have to let me know if Kimblee is a fan favorite, right? Is he an underrated character? Is he appreciated a lot? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments if indeed he is a fan favorite. Listen, from the comments since I started this anime, it feels like Roy Mustang is one of the fan favorites. Ed is one of the fan favorites. King Bradley is also one of the fan favorites, and I'd love to hear that as well, for sure. Because, you know, Mustang and Ed, yes, you know, I'm not saying they shouldn't be fan favorites, but those are, you know, clear choices. You just know they're going to be fan favorites. So, you know, I would love to hear about Kimblee and if he gets a lot of appreciation. And, you know, the crazy thing is, even if he was just making it up, he did something so nice, so lovely for Winry, doesn't he? You know, he tells her about that photo. You must have been a great sense of, or great emotional support for them, right? And it's an honor to meet you. But of course, later, you know, she does have a reason to believe that he might have been bullshitting the whole time, right? Because Ed does tell her to be careful around this man. But also the really interesting thing there is Ed's, you know, moment of hesitation, right? Because he has those quick flashes of the things Kimblee did in Ishval, but then he kind of, you know, catches himself. He kind of pulls back and he's like, hold on, the only things I know about Ishval and Kimblee are through Hawkeye, right? Yes, Hawkeye is really trustworthy, of course, but, you know, I like it. I like that Ed is thinking like that. And then, of course, there's also a lovely moment of levity as he also remembers the other thing Hawkeye mentioned about Winry, right? And his feelings for her. And, you know, I love how Ed is still kind of in denial, right? But he knows, right? He's got those feelings for her. But you look at Winry. She's accepted it. It's normal for her at this point, right? So much so that she'll not be so nonchalant about just dropping it. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one, folks. It's another fantastic episode. It really is. I'm really, really enjoying this. If you couldn't already tell, I'm really quite excited about this. And you know, it's getting close to like the 40s at this point. I'll be in the 40s in no time. You know, that's kind of insane to think about at this point. But yeah, you know, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments. Do let me know about Kimblee and how he's received by the fan base. You know, if you're interested in early access, consider checking out the Patreon page or perhaps full length, right? If you are, consider checking out the links in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one.